All right, so if you're like me and like eating more than cooking, then this one's for you. So today we are building Lazy Chef, a tiny guided recipe app for people whose stove is really just a place to store their DoorDash deliveries. It's gonna ask 3 funny questions, give 1 dead simple recipe, and guide the user through the cooking process. Now, here's my broader take. Software is becoming easier and easier to spin up every single day. So a really viable strategy is to not build for everyone, but rather to actually zero in on a specific audience. You want to solve their specific pain point in the simplest way possible. That is what we're doing here. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go from blank screen to a working app that you can share with the world in, let's say, around 20 minutes. Yes, even if you've never coded before, never shipped anything, that is totally fine. All you need is the ability to watch, to learn, and to type keys on the keyboard. Let's get started. All right, so here is our game plan. Step 1. First, we're going to flesh out the product idea a bit, and we're going to be a bit more thoughtful than we were in previous videos. So we're going to really have a point of view on who our persona is. We're going to think through some of the features a lot more than we did in the past. We'll certainly have more notes on aesthetics, and most importantly, we're going to pay a good amount of attention to our onboarding flow. You know, the onboarding flow is such an important part of the product experience. So we're going to pay some more attention to that. Once we have all those components written out, we're then going to assemble it in one giant prompt. We'll go to ChatGPT for help with that process. And then the end result, which will be that prompt, will then be plopped into Lovable. That's our second step, taking that prompt that we get from GPT and putting it into Lovable. Now, quick note that step 1 is optional because I'm going to have the prompts ready for you. So again, step 2, we're going to generate our front end in Lovable. From there, step 3, we are going to set up Lovable with Supabase. We're going to create a new Supabase project and integrate our Lovable project with that Supabase project. Step 4, we're now going to set up the backend in Supabase, so things like user accounts, authentication, things like that. And then finally, step 5, we are going to add Lightswitch analytics so we know how people are actually using our product, and then ultimately we can iterate it to improve it. And by the end of this, you're going to have a Lazy Chef app that actually makes cooking bearable, even if you hate it. Let's get into it. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Sunny. I'm a serial founder, now on my 4th startup. I'm also a former senior engineer at Bloomberg and Shopify, and currently an adjunct professor at Columbia Business School, where I teach technology. Listen, I've been in the industry for over a decade, well before all this AI innovation we're seeing. So I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. And I'm here to help you actually get your ideas out into the world. Let's get started on our first step. So let's actually think about how we're going to go about designing our product. And I want to really focus on 3 things: our target persona, our features, and our aesthetics. So I've done some pre-planning here. All I've done is just had a few chats with ChatGPT, and this is kind of where I've landed. So let's talk about the target persona. So again, this is for people who hate cooking at home. So we're calling it the reluctant home cook. They're busy, ambitious, and creative in their own domains. But when it comes to the kitchen, they dread it. Cooking feels like a chore, not a joy. They want meals that are fast, foolproof, and low effort, with minimal cleanup. They're the kind of person who laughs at the idea of gourmet meal prep and wants a tool that makes survival cooking painless. So that is our target persona. I think that's just enough of detail for our Lovable prompt. So now moving on, this is where we're going to get into more of the nitty gritty of our application. So these are kind of like the main feature sets of our product. I mentioned earlier that we want to pay close attention to the onboarding. You know, onboarding is such an important part of the overall product experience. It's kind of the difference between whether someone decides to stick around with you or not, because it really is that very first impression that you give to your user. So in our case, we're going to ask some 3 questions. We're going to inject a little humor in it here, and it's going to be super dead simple. From there, we are then going to present the user with some kind of recipe template. initially we're going to put in these 3 recipes. Eventually we'll be able to add more recipes, but in this product development process, we'll kind of hard code these recipes into the code itself, as opposed to it being dynamic from a database. And then finally, probably the most important, the crux of the application itself, is that guided cooking mode, right? It's not enough for this reluctant cook to see a recipe. They actually need to be handheld through the process. And, we really have empathy for this lazy chef because we also offer the skip or shortcut buttons here. So this is kind of just like a bird's eye view of our features that we're going to offer in this product. Going forward to our last component, which is the aesthetics part of it. So we're going to have some opinions on our color palette. These are kind of just like food coloring type color palettes here, some interesting typography, layouts. Something else I want to draw your attention to is background texture. So I have found if you are able to add just a very light background texture, whether dots, lines, whatever it is, it can really give the illusion of a very, very well-designed app, and it's a pretty low-lift thing. This is a nice to have. So if Lovable is unable to do it, that's totally okay. But we're going to just kind of roll the dice and see if we can get that in there. So now that I have all 3 of these components, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and assemble assemble this prompt in GPT. So I'm going to go to GPT and I'm going to simply type this. I'm actually just going to copy paste it. And again, I will have all the prompts for you. So I want to build a guided cooking web app for those who hate cooking called Lazy Chef. Please design a prompt I can plug into my AI code gen app called Lovable that will generate the app. More on the product. So again, we are using AI to generate a prompt for another AI. This is called meta prompting. It's very effective. So what I'm simply going to do underneath this is I'm going to copy all the components that we just outlined here, paste this here, and then let her do her thing. All right, so we have a prompt. It's interesting. It wrote it in Markdown, but that's totally okay. So this is the actual bulk of the prompt here. There's a lot here. It's really outlining like the flow of the application. It's also outlining the mapping rules, meaning when the user fills out the little onboarding in a certain way, which recipe to show it. This is all essentially just scaffolding, I would say. So like we are obviously going to iterate on this product in the future and maybe change some of that mapping logic, certainly putting in way more recipes because right now it's just a 3 recipe product. But that's okay because this is just, we're in the development process. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this whole thing and then I'm going to go to Lovable and paste it here. So I have to make the disclaimer that we have pasted in quite a lengthy prompt that really covers a lot of the bases. So Lovable is going to probably take some time here to build everything out because it has a lot of instructions to work with. So let's see what she comes back with on the other side. All right, we are back. Let's see what she provided for us. This looks cool. So I can select how much I hate cooking right now, my patience level, as well as how many dishes I will wash. So let's see what happens here. Cool. Stuffs everything in a pan with oil, salt, paprika. Oh, sheet pan chicken. So now we are just going through the cooking process. And awesome. I think this looks pretty fantastic here. Now on to step 3. Okay, so this all looks great, but I want to be very clear about something. This is a pure front-end application, meaning there is no backend. This is just what you see is what you get. There's no database. Everything is hard-coded. So the logic is hard-coded and the recipes themselves are hard-coded. Now, if you don't know what hard-coded means, all it means is that the data itself and the real core data of this application is the recipes is sitting in the code. So let's actually go to code mode right here. And we can actually see, if we look at data here, these are our recipes. So we have microwave fried rice, we have the one pan pasta, we have the sheet pan chicken. So it's just the 3 recipes. All the data is sitting in the code itself. There is no database. In practice, though, we want all of this data to be sitting in a database. Why? Well, because once your app grows, hard coding like this becomes an absolute nightmare. Anytime that you want to add, remove, or edit data, you'd have to edit the code and then redeploy it to the internet, which is a nightmare. A backend database, rather, will let you update, add personalized content instantly without touching code. Also, we need a backend database if we have user accounts and we want to be able to log in. That's not going to be hard coded. So that is where Supabase comes in. Supabase will hold our data in a database. So let's actually get that set up right now. All right, so let's actually go ahead and connect this to a new Supabase project. So I'm going to click on this little Supabase icon here, and I'm going to click Connect Supabase. In this case, we're creating a new project. So I'm going to click this and then Create Project here. What's the name of the project here? It looks like just simply Lazy Chef App. So Lazy Chef App. All right, Create Project here. Okay, so now we have set up our Lazy Chef app in Supabase. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and connect it to our project here. Great. So we have officially connected it. We have a Supabase instance of our project, which is our backend, our Lovable project, of course, which is our front end, and now they are linked together. So now we've set that up. Now we need to actually move our data from our code to our backend. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paste this prompt and we'll read it together. Let's move our recipes out of our code into our code base. So create the appropriate tables, number 1, connect our front end to our database, and then remove the hard-coded recipes from our front end. So this is actually quite a bit of work for Lovable. So there's a chance that she might spin her wheels a little bit, but let's just roll the dice and see what happens. All right, so the first thing that's actually happening under the hood is that Lovable needs to actually make changes in our database. So you see here, right now we have no tables here. In order for Lovable to make changes in our database in Supabase, it needs to ask us for approval. This is what we call a database migration, which is a fancy word for changing the database. We're just going to approve it and assume that Lovable is doing the right thing, and then we'll see what happens from there. Okay, so I told you that Lovable may spin her wheels a little bit, so we're going to hit approve again. It looks like there was an error with the original database change, and now we're just trying to run this again. All right, so it looks like that worked. Now let's just confirm by going to our backend here. So here we have our recipes here, and it looks like it moved that data correctly into these tables. So these are the 3 meals that we have. These are the different steps that are kind of associated to each respective meal. So it has successfully moved the data to our backend. Let's see what it's doing now. Cool. So now it's just connecting the two between the front end and the back end. As I mentioned, it's quite a bit of work that it's doing, and there's a bit of complexity and nuance that relate to it. So it's going to maybe go back and forth, and let's see what happens. So it looks like it's done. Let me refresh the page. I obviously see this nasty error. Let me refresh the page here. And if we get the error again, we'll just tell it to fix it. Otherwise, we'll see what happens. Okay, cool. So it looks like this is working. Looks like we have something here. Let's actually take a look at the code for a second. Looks like we still have the data in our backend. So I'm not sure whether we're getting this from the backend or from the front end. So a quick and easy way to check is to go to our backend. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add exclamation points after every title. So now that I've updated that in the backend, I'm actually going to refresh the page here. Actually, we'll do it in the editor version. So I'm going to refresh the page. So when we do see the recipe name, it should have the exclamation point, which is what we have here. Fantastic. So we have successfully set up our backend and we've integrated the backend. So now the last step that we need to do with respect to Supabase is we need to set up authentication. Of course, we need users to be able to log in, sign up, and then access this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to put this prompt here. Let's set up user profiles and authentication and give it a go. Okay, so it's asking us for more information. Do we want more information, just the base, other than the basic stuff? Actually, it asks us and it kind of made the decision on its own. For now, let's keep it super basic. Again, we are now adding new tables to our database. So it needs to run a database change and it's going to ask us for that approval, in which case we are going to approve. All right, looks like it's done. Let's see if we're good here. So I'm actually just going to refresh the page. Okay, so it looks like we have our sign in, sign up here. Let's actually go ahead and sign up. But before we do, I want to show you one thing. So this is our backend. This is where we actually have like all the configurations with authentication, things like that, right? So I'm going to go into authentication. I'm going to click on sign in and providers, and I'm actually going to check this specific configuration off. Now, what this does mean is that when a user signs up, they have to approve it with a confirmation email. In our case, I'm actually switching that off because it just makes testing a lot easier. Once we are pushing this live to real users, you'll want to put that back on to prevent spam bots and such. So I've saved those changes. Let's go back to this, just confirming that this works. Create account. Great. So it looks like we are logged in. Now let's just confirm. We're going to refresh this right here. And now we see in this users table our new user that we just created. So we have essentially completed the app. All right, so let's get to our final step, which is adding Lightswitch. So this part really separates the hobby projects from the real products. So we want to add analytics here because what we want to do is we want to essentially add some visibility as to how users are using the app. So let me actually go to Get Lightswitch, and we're going to go to the tiny usage product. This is a super simple analytics dashboard, and full disclosure, Lightswitch is my company, and we've essentially designed this for Vibe coders to make this as seamless, as simple as possible, but still effective in capturing all of the metrics that you need. So let's actually go ahead and get started. So we're going to click this Get Started here, and what we're going to do is we're going to put in our new app. In this case, it's going to be Lovable. I'm now going to copy this project URL and paste this in here. So my name is Sunny. Let's say Lazy Chef at getlightswitch.com. All right, so to integrate analytics into your product, very simple. All you need to do is just copy this prompt. As soon as you click that button, it'll actually open up Lovable for you to make it as easy as possible. Then we simply paste it. So what Lovable is doing right now is it's integrating into Lightswitch and tracking all the events that really make sense for this product. Let's see what she gets on the other side. So it looks like it's done. It's successfully integrated Lightswitch into everything. Let's actually go back to the onboarding here. So we've successfully copy and pasted this integration prompt. If I hit continue, it looks like the connection went through because it was able to detect it on the Lightswitch side. When we hit finish, we'll now open up all of the analytics that we need. Not much here because we just started, but this is really kind of the main dashboard that has all the metrics that matter for you at this stage of the game. The real focus is really just getting on that first 100 users, the first 100 signups, and kind of then taking it from there. But this is really the level of complexity you need in terms of analytics at this stage. Most important thing is that we're tracking some basic things, so that way we have visibility on how users are using our product, and then we can ultimately iterate on top of it. All right, and that is a wrap. In about 20 minutes, we went from a blank screen to a working guided cooking app that actually makes sense for real people. And here's the thing. We didn't just build something random. We actually started with a persona, baked in a fun onboarding flow, and ended with an app that feels like it was designed for a specific type of person. Now it's your turn. What I want you to do is I want you to remix this idea, push it live, drop it in the comments, or tag me so I can check it out. And I'll leave you with this. Remember, the more specific your audience is, the easier it is to stand out. That's the real trick. Not just building fast, but building something that clicks with the right people. So go make an app out there. I appreciate for those who were able to stay through the end of this video. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.